Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Cropper here. This shall be the fourth and final installment on the video about Let's Discuss Objectivism versus Voluntarism with Victor Pross by Disenthrall. Now, if you like the stuff I do here, please patronize me. I gave up a job driving BMWs and Mercedes in my spare time so that I can make these videos. So, you should patronize me if you like what I do here. Or if you don't, hell, you should patronize me even more if you don't like what I do. These gentlemen have been doing a fairly good job of going over this topic. Disenthrall is not too savvy. He needs to learn some basic philosophy, as I suspect pretty much anybody who thinks anarchy is reasonable does. Victor Pross is a little better on objectivism as such, but is also fairly confused. So now we're going to see the final death throes of their confusion. At 1 minute and 22 seconds, we're going to hear him say that the President of the United States lives fat and happy, and etc.
Let me argue from the other direction to see if I can get this thing. The answer I'm trying to get to. That maybe I'm dumb and you're giving me the answer 17 ways from Sunday and I'm just not hearing it. That might be the case, and if it is, tell me. But
you can revisit the video.
So, the President of the United States of America cashes paychecks with stolen money daily, monthly, whatever, however often he gets paid. He subsists on theft, on mass threat of violence. He controls people. He affects everyone's lives in violation of their consent every day of his life. And he is going to die fat, happy, rich, and protected by a massive armed security force.
Now, there isn't anything particularly substantive about what he's saying. Surprise. What I want to point out is that his example of a rampaging mystic of muscle, in Ayn Rand's terms, his example of that is the President of the United States of America. How strange is that? Do you remember that time when Hitler stood on the stage with 16 other candidates for Chancellor of Germany and he had to debate them all and he won? You don't remember that? Oh, that was Trump, that's right. Trump had to stand against 16 other people and he won. Oh, how fascist is that? Now, he takes presidency and he serves at the pleasure of the people. And after 4 years, he's out unless the people are pleased. Okay, that is the guy that old Disenthrall chooses for his example of a rampaging mystic of muscle. Now, I'm not defending forced taxation. I think taxation should be voluntary. I'm an objectivist, surprise. I just want to point out the moral tone deafness of Disenthrall. You couldn't choose Kim Il-sung or Hitler or Stalin or Xi Jinping, who's just announced himself president for life of China and changed the Constitution. And what happened when he changed the Constitution, announced himself president for life? Everybody stood up and applauded. Of course they did. No. Kim Il-sung, President of North Korea. Is he an example that might inform us to think about these things? If we're thinking about a mystic of muscle who seizes from the people and thinks that he's done well for himself by seizing from the people? Kim Il-sung's a good example. No, President Trump. So you see the moral tone deafness of anarchists in general, and this guy in particular. Now, we skip ahead a bit to 129.20. If life is the standard, you can justify any level of statehood.
So where a lack of justice is being applied.
The point of our talk was to answer the contradiction, right? So how do...
Answer the contradiction. What contradiction?
I guess that's the contradiction. So if the definition is what serves life in your opinion, then you can justify any level of government because you...
So if you choose life as the standard, you can justify any level of government. Really? So by choosing life as the standard, we go insane and we end up with this really enormous government called Soviet Russia, which kills dozens of millions of people. That's just bizarre. I mean, anybody who would say something like that is just thoroughly, thoroughly confused. Of course Soviet Russia is not an example of government protecting life. So, I don't know what else to say about that. Let's see. It occurs to me that the people that need this message might not be able to understand it, and the people who can understand this message are not watching people who are this confused. So I'm not sure if that's true or not, but if it is true, then I don't know what I'm doing here, and maybe I shouldn't be here. I should probably go somewhere else and do something a little more substantive. I've got Jimmy Dore says that we're provoking Iran into a war. And I'm going to do a video on that. That's going to be fun. Oh, Jimmy. All right.
Served your life. So,
no, we got what we needed there. Now we're going to skip ahead to 1 minute and 37. And he gives us a little speech. And the speech is 60 seconds long. We're going to listen to his whole little speech here. This is a huge misunderstanding of objectivism that Victor Pross is about to show us here. He's going to ramble a bit. He's going to name two things as he tries to give a list. And then he's going to say QED, point proven. Ramble, a list of two things, and then QED.
On why he's wrong. Okay. Basically, I would argue that the government, as defined, necessarily initiates a force. Eventually, by the nature of it, if not by open declaration, a lot of people let the cat out of the bag, like Iran did. It does call for the initiation of force for the monopolization of this institution. So, if you remove all the things that the objectivists want to remove from
again, if you set up a government and you just declare openly on a pillar sitting in the middle of town, you write the laws, or you have it written on paper somewhere, and you declare openly these are the laws. The men with guns will come and get you if you disobey these laws. And if those laws are only protecting individual rights, if those two things obtain, what could be wrong with that government? It's not initiating force against anybody. It responds if somebody else initiates force, but it's not initiating force, and in a proper society you could have your guns and your knives. What would be wrong with that? So he's very confused, and he just is so confused.
In action, such as education of the young, we have complete free market of how people want to educate their children. It's up to them, and recognition of their rights. If we remove the money supply being monopolized.
There's his list. Education and the money supply. If we removed education from the government's hands, and if we removed money supply from the government's hands.
Which facilitates trade, where you have competing monies. If you remove all of that, and you actually apply in action, as existential action, that abstract principle called individual rights, you would discover, lo and behold, if by default, if not by principle, you have anarchism.
Now, I will agree with him to some extent. We have anarchy in the United States. Because I can go live in some cabin somewhere and have a pistol with me and protect myself in that way. And if somebody comes to my cabin, I can kill them, and then I can go to a court of law, and a jury can say, okay, we believe his story, and set him free. So, in a certain sense, people are at war with each other out here in the countryside in the United States, and occasionally it comes to an arbitration of their peers, and their peers may or may not decide whether or not these people were in the right. So, it's not the case that anarchy would be really very different from just a free society where there's a pretty good culture. Anarchy would be groups of people at war. That's what we have, really. We've got gangs in the cities, and we've even got police running some of those gangs. And the police rob the gangs, and then they sell the drugs that the gangs were going to sell. And the police set up deals to sell stuff to gangs, and then they take the money from the gangs. The police are a gang. But that's only because drugs are illegal. If you legalize drugs, that would go away. So we already have a state of anarchy like he's describing, if you want to look at it that way. It would, what he says if you took away this and this and this, you'd have a state of anarchy. Okay, we have to pay for our own roads and our own education. If that's anarchy, fine. We've already got anarchy, if that's how low your bar is for anarchy. All that we have is groups of people who say once in a while, hey, we don't like what that guy did, and then we enforce our view on that guy. That's anarchy for you, because that would happen in anarchy. Believe me. Groups of people would enforce their stuff on each other. Believe me. So we already have anarchy if your bar is that low, that all you need to do is privatize education and the roads and you would have anarchy, then we've already got it. I think his bar for anarchy is quite low there. Now, at 1:39, yeah, we can skip ahead 1 minute. 1:39. Why do you uphold the? Why does anyone uphold the NAP? Because it makes the individual's life better. This is how I ended my previous video installment number 3, was it? At the end I said, they dispense with life being the standard of value. They say that the non-aggression principle should guide our action. Why should the non-aggression principle guide our action? Well, because it would make our lives better. Well, then the non-aggression principle is guided by and serves the purpose of making our individual lives better. Besides, there is no one else besides the individual, so it must be making life better for individuals. So, your guide to action is making life better for individuals. No, it's the non-aggression principle.
Come back down to life. That's just the objectivists took a little bit deeper. The ANCAPs jumped on the shoulders, bypassing the philosophical argument in the hierarchy of knowledge that justifies, and why should we not initiate force against others? Because
he's talking there about the frothiness of politics. How I was saying we've got the solid base of metaphysics and epistemology, and you move up, and then the ethics is a question of how to act, and that's an abstraction, and then politics is a second layer of abstraction on how you act when other people are around. So it's even frothier and more detailed. And the ANCAPs jump into that froth, and they say, this is home, we're home.
if that was some kind of like standard to apply, human beings wouldn't survive. And you can't universalize it as well. But human beings cannot survive. It's called for a synthesis of universally preferable behavior, individual rights, and the non-aggression principle. You have all of that, you have the preservation of life.
Well, Victor, I appreciate the time today. It's been...
Oh, I guess we missed whatever last thing that I was going to pick on there where he says, why do you uphold the NAP? Maybe it was right before that. Because it makes life better. Well, there you go, ladies and gentlemen. Life is the standard of value, even for confused anarchists who don't know what their own standard of value is. That's point number one we can take away from this. Point number two we can take away from this is that anarchists don't understand basic philosophy, and maybe we could define anarchists as people interested in freedom but lacking education. That could be it. And I'm tempted to do that, except Victor Pross here seems pretty well educated, considers himself an objectivist, and yet calls himself an anarchist. Now, I haven't heard any good justification in this video for anarchy. All I've heard is what seems like confusion on the part of Mr. Pross. So, if these videos are available to him, he and Disenthrall have both been notified. If they want to make a reply, they're welcome to. I don't know how productive it'll be, so I'm going to be off to other projects. I won't be waiting around. But I'll be here if they have anything to say. Patronize me. Pay me. Stop me from going back to drive Mercedes and BMWs in my free time. That was my part-time job. Which was pretty easy stuff, I have to tell you. So, $5 a month, that's what I'm asking you for. $10 would be better, $20 would be fantastic, $50 would be great, $100 would be nice. Go patronize me, and I'll see what else I can do. I was actually looking through my videos, old videos I've done for ideas, And my Nicomachean Ethics series has 11 or more videos in it. I'm looking at the page there. I could see up to 11. Maybe it's got number 12. Oh, Aristotle's Nicomachean Ethics number 19. Okay, and they're 10 minutes each. That's almost 200 minutes of Aristotle's Ethics that I have available. I did that ages ago. Now, I don't know what other projects I'm going to do, but that gives you an idea. 200 minutes of Aristotle's Ethics? That's a couple of good, long, university-style lectures on Aristotle's Ethics. Now, I didn't just make this shit up. I'm reading from Aristotle, and then I stop and discuss. And then I read some more. And I don't read everything. I edit out the stuff that's confusing or bad. Or I read a little bit of it to tell you what was there and say, I'm not sure what it means, then I go on with it. Go check it out. Aristotle's Ethics is very important. Extremely important. It's the basis of Western society. If you don't know what it is, anarchists would do well to read up on it. They would be less confused if they did that. And I have 200 minutes of Aristotle's Ethics up. Old videos I've done. Go patronize me so I can make more stuff like that. And thank you for joining me. Poor anarchists.